All right, we are live. Welcome to Grim Survival. My special guest, Bjorn, whose full name I'm not going to try to pronounce because everyone here knows how I am with names, so we won't go there. But thank you very much for joining me over here on my channel. I got to say just before we start here is between all the other channels I've had come over and visit me here on Grim Survival, you have more subscribers. Oh, that's start here is shut up there. Okay. You have more subscribers than all of us put together. So yeah, I very much appreciate you coming to such a small channel like mine and visiting. So thank you.
Thanks for asking. We have been talking a little bit already, so that was, so I'm looking forward to our chat here.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. We have some topics at hand to go into for sure. And yeah, we have a couple people in the live chat right now, but probably waiting for a few. Yeah, we have 3 people watching right now. So hello, all 3 of you. Probably one of them is me.
Yeah, it is the evening here in Norway. So because of the time difference, I'm afraid that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, definitely
for you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a lot of watches on the replay for sure. One of my moderators has shown up, James Hoggle. How's it going? Thanks for being here. James, I already posted it on the Facebook and the MeWe, but if you can figure out Twitter and throw it up over there, I'll leave it to you, man. So topics at hand. I do have questions. I have written down a lot of questions, but I guess if you wouldn't mind starting just by introducing yourself to anybody here in the States that may not have heard of you. I wouldn't believe that's possible, but you know, there's always a few.
Well, thank you for that. I'm a YouTuber, but I'm actually a novelist. That's my daytime job, I guess you could say. I have been a novelist for many years. I'm actually writing my 20th novel now. Those are not in English yet, I'm afraid, but they have been translated to many other languages. So 12? No, I can't. Yeah, well, at least 10, I think now, languages. But yeah, I'm a novelist, and I'm 48 years old.
Really, you don't look 48 years old, I gotta say.
That's again very kind of you. The beard covers up the old age, you know.
That's why I wear the hat right here. So.
Yeah, well, no, that's very kind of it. Yeah, so I'm a novelist, but also a YouTuber, and I can't remember how many years I've been on YouTube. It's maybe 4 years or something like that.
Yeah, I've been following you for at least 2 years for sure.
Well, thank you.
So you actually have a Wikipedia. Are you aware of that?
Oh yes,
they have a lot of pictures of you. I mean, some pictures where you don't have the beard. That's interesting.
It is a pain to update the Wikipedia because I have tried to do that, but it's what should I say? It's they think I'm lying.
They think you're lying about who you are?
Yes.
Okay.
And as we know, Wikipedia is they have their gatekeepers, and they heavily politicized. And even if you don't, well, let's not get into the whole Wikipedia thing. I don't like Wikipedia much, and
I don't either.
So that's why there's a very old photo there. Yeah.
Well, I found it because I had just typed in your name into Google really quickly to pull up your website, which I just posted in chat. Now, on your website, there is a petition there. I encourage everybody to go and sign this petition so that we can have your novels translated to English, because I have read a lot about your novels, but obviously I can't read them because English is my only language. So I definitely have already signed the petition, and I would encourage anyone watching this to do the same, because I would really like them to be translated to English personally. So yeah.
Well, actually, I can tell you that the first novel in the Jom's Viking series.
Mhm.
It has been translated to English,
Really?
but my agent needs a book deal with a publisher for the English language market. So that's why it really would help any signature, well, anyone who would want to sign that petition. It would actually help, and it's one of the subscribers on my main channel who started that petition. I'm quite impressed because it has over 6,000 signatures there now.
Wow.
And but my agents, they are working on this, so I am confident that we will get there. But as I tell my agent every time I talk to my agent, I tell them this needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a lot of American subscribers on your YouTube, and I'm sure a lot of them would love to read your books. So yeah.
Yeah, most of them are either from the USA, Canada, the UK, or Australia.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus with most prepping or survival type related channels. So yeah.
Yes.
Have you heard of a channel called Prepper Nation by any chance?
I've heard the name. I'm sure I've watched a video or two, but I can't really. I can't remember which one channels it is, but I remember the name.
Oh, well, John is the man who runs Prepper Nation, and he is an author himself. So I mention it because you may be able to reach out to him through emails or contact one way or another, and he may be able to give you some links or help you out a little bit by getting a U.S. publisher. So
okay,
that is definitely a recommendation. Very interesting channel to watch too if you ever follow him on YouTube. But Prepper Nation, definitely highly recommending for sure. So the topics at hand obviously are the vax, and we were discussing this just a little while before the live stream while I was having all the technical issues. The vax passport is basically I was talking about this in a video yesterday. I had posted a news type video on my channel, which obviously YouTube demonetized it immediately.
Yeah, we just got the news here today actually about that. Yeah.
So do you think they're going to try to implement the vax passport in your country?
Yeah.
Do you have a time frame?
Yes, March,
really? Yeah, I was hearing early January or early 21.
Yeah, well, and the reason I'm saying that is that I just actually before we started talking, so today, I read in the mainstream newspaper, the main newspaper in Norway, that digital passports are coming with the vaccine status and test status, and so whoever said that was a conspiracy, it's not a conspiracy.
Yeah.
So
they already made a movie about it.
Yeah, well, and it was framed as the best thing ever. Oh, this will give us freedom. And other people have said, now we already have freedom.
Yeah.
We're born free, right?
Yep.
So they are very cheeky. They are very cheeky, these politicians.
Yes, they are. Yeah. They have talked about just in the United States implementing it for stadium access, for like sporting events, for concert venues, for movie theaters, and that's really all they said. And they did really say it the same way, that this will allow us the freedom to go back to the supposed normal, as they like to say. But I know better. I know better personally. I know you know better also. This is going to be used for a lot more than just, recreational activities. This is going to be used for everything. I mean, and they're already talking about having it attached to a passport to cross countries and go into different countries right now. But
that was in the newspaper. That was the thing they were talking about there.
Yeah, but it's going to be more than that. I believe it's going to be a lot more than that. I think it's going to be everything. It's going to be grocery stores, schools, jobs. That's my opinion, of course. This hasn't been confirmed information, but that is definitely my opinion on it.
I think wherever there is money to be made, that's going to happen. And also, I think it doesn't really matter if it's first implemented and it's part of the whole technological, what's the word? Excuse my limited knowledge of the English language, but they implement this into everything, and then you can't really separate where this information goes and where it doesn't go anymore, because it is just in the grid. No, yeah,
Yeah,
it is out there.
the mainstream, basically, mainstream media and mainstream information. So
Yeah, so it's like when you, I think it's the same in your country. We use the when you log on to the to the bank, like what do you call it, when you pay your bills
yeah,
online. Yeah, that code and all that's used for everything here now.
yeah,
Yeah, everything that needs to be secure, right? So that information is obviously in the system, right?
hmm
Yeah.
yeah. We actually have a driver's license in the United States. It's basically a photo ID that is being called the real ID. They're switching it all over. I think by early next year, everyone's supposed to have one, and this was already said to give basically release people to travel from state to state. And they were talking at some point, and this was considered a conspiracy also, that if you didn't have this certain type of ID, that you would not be able to cross into from one state to another. And this ID has a computer chip in it, a barcode on the back of it that you can scan. And when it's scanned, it brings up pretty much all of your information, your name, your birthday, your address. It will bring up even more personal information if you have access to government systems such as law enforcement or things like that. So, yeah. And again, it's still considered to be a conspiracy, but I've seen proof of this firsthand because I have this ID. I was forced to get it from my line of work. I'm a truck driver, currently an out of work truck driver. But yeah, and I was required to have this ID to be a truck driver. So, and yeah, I think it's going to be very easy to attach this vaccine passport to that ID just by the digital information that's attached to the ID already, where they can just swipe the card and see all the information. So who's to say they're not just going to use that at some point?
Yeah, well, and there's this funny thing that has started. I'm seeing it more and more now. They say it's going to be voluntary, but you can't travel without it.
Yeah,
But traveling is voluntary.
yeah,
It's all voluntary. You don't have to do that. There's a lot of, you can sit, you can live in a box.
hmm
Anything outside of that is voluntary. You don't have to do that. It's a funny thing how they manage to change things from freedom as that's our natural state. I'm not. What I'm trying to say is they change this so quickly. It's amazing, because I still think that freedom is our natural state. But lots of people, they seem to think else. They seem to think that no, we need to be given that freedom. We need to be allowed to do this and that. And that annoys me, and it gives me a headache, to be honest.
yeah. I know that feeling very well, and it take more and more freedoms, and then they try to offer, like this passport, more freedoms back. They say you will be free by taking this card, but that card by itself is taking away your freedom, because without it you can't I mean, I know they're going to implement it for schools, jobs, grocery stores. They've already talked about airlines, crossing international borders, things like this. But it's going to come down to absolutely everything we do. We're not going to be able to go just do the most basic things without this card. And that's not freedom. That's not
No.
even close to freedom.
And let me tell you one thing. I have kids that both my kids are now teenagers. And when I was a teenager, I wanted to travel, you know, and you start wanting to, oh, I want to go to this country and that. I want to explore and see the world.
Yeah.
How is that supposed to happen now? I don't see that happening because it's not going to be, for our family, this vaccine. Nobody knows if it's safe. If you ask me, I think it's not safe. So we're not going to be guinea pigs to travel. I'm not giving up my bodily integrity or my children's bodily integrity so that we can go traveling to other countries. And that means that, to ask for that is a crime. And they are asking for that, and they're going to ask for that. It's a crime. And for me, I'm 48 years old, as I said, so it's okay. I've traveled a lot, but for my kids, it's unforgivable because I really wanted for them to travel to all these fantastic places. How are they supposed to go to the USA, for instance? How is that supposed to happen now?
Yeah, I don't believe it's going to happen. And there's a lot of other people that are saying the same thing. They wish they could visit other places, but now they don't even want to, leave their country because they don't want to take a shot. They don't want this vaccine. And I'm right there with them. I don't want it either. And I mean, you won't even be able, here in the United States, there's a lot of travel between the U.S. and Canada. There's especially a lot of truck drivers that pass over the border every single day to deliver freight and goods to, Canada from the United States and vice versa. And these are going to be the next in line, I believe, to get the shot. They're already doing it here for medical professionals, doctors, nurses, and such. They are doing it for some first responders in some cities are already starting to get it. Anyone that flies an airline pilots, or anyone that travels an airline is now starting to be required to have this for several different companies. And yeah, I mean, here in the United States, you're not even going to be able to travel. And they actually did this during a couple of the holidays, that it was very difficult to travel just from one state to the other. And I remember as a kid, my parents, we went on road trips all over this country, seen a lot of the sights and the landmarks and things, and learned a lot of things. But now I can't do that with my kids because, I mean, if they see the license plate on the back of my vehicle that isn't matching the state I'm in, the police are going to pull me over and try to quarantine me and my whole family. So it's not freedom.
Yeah, let me add that I think both you and we're actually lucky because we live in places with a lot of, wilderness, nature. Many Europeans are now imprisoned, actually.
Oh yeah.
So I have friends in other countries in Europe, and it's because European countries very often, the Western European countries are quite small and very populated.
Yeah.
So it must be horrible, and they can't go anywhere.
Yeah. I seen an article from the UK Prime Minister. It was actually a video I seen. I talked about it yesterday as well, where they are limiting social gatherings outdoors to 2 people only. They've shut down all the businesses that they consider non-essential. All the gathering places, parks, churches, pretty much everything was shut down by the Prime Minister. And they're telling you, unless you live with these people, you cannot have more than 2 people near you at any given time for something that has a 99% survival rate. The last time I checked, it makes absolutely no sense at all.
It is. Here's my take on this, and I don't know, but it's just what I think right now, and my opinion is kind of changing as I get information, right? So I think there is a virus out there. I think it's not very deadly. I think it's not unique as a coronavirus, and I think that it has been someone discovered that there was a lot of money to be made, and they discovered this quite early on. And also, I think the response from most politicians were, well, they are now in a situation where they already went too far down that road, so they can't really. It will be political suicide if they say that, well, no, we were wrong. Everything we did was wrong. We need to turn and stop this. We need to, that's what they should do. But they care more about their career, I think, than about doing what's right. So it's like, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, it's all a scam. I think there's an obvious scam going on, but there is also there's a little bit of both in a way. That's my personal opinion. And I would like to see. Now, I actually studied statistics in university, and I talked with other people who also have studied statistics, and it's a shame how they present the data, because in Norway, for instance, they compare the number of infected people that we have now with the number of infected people we had in March. The situation in March was that they didn't have many tests because they didn't have enough test kits. So they are testing a lot more people now, which will increase the numbers of infected people. So what I'm trying to say is, we don't know how many people were infected in March. We don't know, because they were testing so few. But they are still every day comparing those two numbers, and they're saying, look at all these infected people that we have now. So we have to shut everything down because this is worse than in March when this started. And that's a lie. That's just not true. It's a lie, and it's one of several lies actually that are being presented to people every single day. So
I completely agree that is a lie. And just to add to that, there has been a story circulating that was actually posted on one of the video platforms of a man. He recorded himself doing this. He went to have the COVID test to see if he would test positive for it 5 times in a single day. 2 tests came back positive, 3 tests came back negative, all in one day. And I think the testing is purposely flawed, I guess is the best way to put it, purposely flawed.
Yeah, well, my problem with the testing, I have 2 problems with it. First of all, I think having a something this long. Oops, here it is.
Small screen.
In here, no, I'm not letting anyone do that unless I'm gravely ill. No, I'm not doing that.
I will not comply. That's my common theme to say is, I will not comply.
Yeah, and also I want to know where that material is stored, or is it just thrown away? Because they are gathering, and this will sound a little bit like I'm out there into conspiracy land, but if I wanted to gather the entire population's DNA, that's how I would do it.
Yep. Oh yeah. And yeah, I can see how it would sound similar to a conspiracy, but I mean, there's been so many supposed conspiracies that have all come very true very recently that I think the people, especially the people who are paying attention, are starting to realize that they're not so much conspiracies, they're more like predictions, or, you know, an educated guess is sometimes, assigned to that.
Yeah,
So,
well, if you had the DNA material for an entire population, can you imagine the worth of that on the free market?
oh yeah. And
Not a
China, what was it? I seen the news about China yesterday. They're altering gene, alternating, or yeah, words are escaping me, but they're messing with DNA basically, and they're trying to make their soldiers stronger, more resistant to weather, more resistant to pathogens and viruses, and they're doing this with DNA altering, and their government outright admitted this, and the United States intelligence agency actually broadcast this information on mainstream media just a few days ago.
Yeah, I know. And this is something that you can't talk with most people about because they refuse to believe it. But I actually looked into that back in, must have been more than 10 years ago, because I was researching novels that I was writing.
Yeah,
I looked into stem cell technology, which led me to gene or genetical, you say gene technology.
yeah,
Um, and the what I read several places was that we can't do this in Europe, we can't do it in America because of the laws, but they are already doing it in places like Singapore and China. That was
yeah.
more than 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can go all the way back to the 1940s with Germany in just before World War II. They also were experimenting in these very same things. They were trying to do these same things, and that was what we're talking, 60, 70 years ago. And yeah, if they were doing it that far back, a lot of these scientists from that era were brought to the United States. I mean, Albert Einstein, for example, to help with the atom bomb that they created. And we can't just think that that's the only thing they were working on. I mean, it would be naive not to believe that they were doing a lot more that we just don't know. It would be very naive.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like I'm I'm trying to keep this voice in my head talking, which gets me grounded and both feet on the ground at all times, right? But it's like almost every day now, and this is going to increase. It's going to be more rapid now. I think more and more of these things I wouldn't have believed a few weeks, even or months, weeks ago, are starting to appear in mainstream media, always portrayed as very positive. It's the
Yeah.
best thing ever and all that. But where is this going to end? Because we are already far into what was, conspiracy land just a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't like this development at all, and I think this is not the time to be silent. This is the time to call these people out and say what you think. For instance, when it comes to the mRNA vaccine, we do not know if it is safe. It's a new technology, and we should say that. We should say that to friends and family, and but most people, at least in Norway, they are. It's like they don't talk about it, but when I mention it, and I only have to say the word vaccine, I would say 90% of people I've met lately, they burst out and they say, "I'm not getting that vaccine."
Wow. That's
Yeah,
good to hear. It's very good
it
to
is
hear.
good to hear. Yeah, so I have hopes for better times.
Yeah, I mean, I hear I hear it half and half. I mean, I don't go and talk to a lot of people in my area, but there are a lot of doctors, nurses, truck drivers, basically people of working class that just outright say no, we're not doing it. But then you go to people on the school level, people in the universities, and even younger than that, that have it in their mind that this is a good thing, and yeah, we are going to do it. So it doesn't give me too much hope for the younger generation because of what the American school system. I mean, it's outright brainwashing is the best way to put it, and that's just one of those things that people will consider not true or a conspiracy as well. But they're really just manipulating the thoughts of the children to conform to their ideas. And
Hmm.
I mean,
I think we are moving towards that in Norway as well, but I don't think we are there yet. I think it's not that bad here. I think there's certainly, there's a movement towards that, um, but I don't know. It's been so many years since I was in university, and I didn't study in those fields at all. So I don't know, but I don't think it's that bad here. But it's I'm more worried about the constant propaganda from mainstream media, and it's not news, it is propaganda because they are only presenting one side of this, and they will keep doing that until people start dying. If we're talking about the vaccine, they are going to go with this is good, this can only be good, there is nothing wrong with this at all. They're going to do that until the people start dying. Then they will jump on that train, that wagon, that because there is money to be made. Oh, people are dying. Oh, and they get clicks on that, So that's how it
yeah,
works, I guess. Right now, it's propaganda. It's every day, all day. We don't call it news in my house. We call it COVID news. Oh, COVID
yeah.
news.
Yeah, I don't even have a television to watch any of it. I do occasionally read it on, just devices, but I don't believe anything it says. I rarely I will take something out of what they say because you have to really read between the lines when it comes to these people, because you'll get 5 seconds of actual news and then another 20 minutes of propaganda and their opinion, which is only one-sided. And yeah, it's the same thing here. It's just constant propaganda. It's never, I mean, it rarely is something true that comes out of these people and these platforms, and it's disgusting, is what it is.
Yeah, and I'm not the one who decides what happens in the house, so that's why we have a TV. So. But it's yeah, as you say, it is as you say there, and if you disagree with the consensus there, you're an extremist. You're stupid. You're I don't know. They have all these names, and it's
Dangerous.
dangerous as well. And if you think about it, it's a very that is a dangerous way to no, it's a childish way to treat people.
Yeah,
Uh, I would never treat someone who said, "Well, this is serious disease. We need to work on a vaccine." I would never treat them that way because it's like that. Maybe that's the best solution. Maybe that's something we should look into. You know, but they are well now. If just for the record, I do not think that's the way to do it in this case. But just as an example, I'm mentioning it because I think it's very important in a democracy. While we still have that, uh, we can get into that as well. But to have an
we'd
open
like.
discussion.
if you would like, United States was not founded as a democracy, and I consider it to be one of the worst forms of government there is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, most people, including me, use the word not correctly.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. So, yeah, but no, I was actually referring to the very disappointing process that led to the mess that you have with your selected president and oh no, excuse me, elected. Oh, slip of the tongue there. I'm very sorry.
Bought and paid for. Bought and paid for. That's how I will put it. I'm not shy. Yeah, that whole election was propaganda. That's the best way I can put it without YouTube shutting down the stream and locking my channel. It's the whole election was just propaganda.
Yeah, I'll be careful, but let's just say that. Yeah, let's leave it. I don't want to jeopardize your.
I appreciate that. I have a backup channel in the description for when this one gets deleted, because eventually I'm going to say stuff, and eventually they're going to, probably. I'm not going to give them any ideas, but yeah, they have been shutting down a lot of YouTube channels for speaking out against certain things, especially when it comes to the currently president-elect, as they're calling him. I won't utter his name because it's blasphemy. I'll just put it that way. But are you seeing any censorship in your area? I mean, we're seeing a lot of censorship here.
In Norway, we do not have a lot of censorship. I do not know about every media channel, of course, but I know my publisher, and it's the largest publishing house in Norway. They are very true to their their ethics. So basically, as long as you're within the framework of the law, okay, you can write what you want in your books, as long as it's they judge it by the literary quality, right? So as it should be, when it comes to the debate, the public debate, I do not know if there is censorship, but I have seen, because then I wouldn't see what they, if they censored something, you don't see it, right?
Yeah.
But I have seen different opinions. I've seen public debate. We had a good example is that we had a comedy series where there was a guy in a white comedian. He is very funny, one of my favorites, and he has several characters that he plays in this series, and one of them was a can I say mixed race? I think he's guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's very it's not funny when I say it, but if you had seen it,
Yeah.
and he's extremely, that character is so Norwegian. It's a typical Norwegian man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it a little bit extra funny, if you ask me. But he was the TV channel, they took that series off because of that. And it's I think it's 10 years old or something like that. But suddenly that was not allowed because he had makeup in his face, right? That darkened his skin.
Yeah.
And it was very silly because it was not racist. It was not mean. It's a very likable character. So that was censorship. But then it got a lot of backlash. People writing about this. We want this character back. And they did. So they turned around on that one. But it's a good example that we do have room for different opinions in Norway still, I would say.
getting a lot of reports now that we're talking about censoring that a lot of people are unable to view the live stream currently. And now I'm hearing an alarm outside my window. Oh, it's just a truck backing up. Somebody's having a delivery. I'm trying to pull up the stream on a different account to see if I am also having issues with it. Just really quickly, if I could actually get this thing to work. That's strange. I'm not actually seeing it listed at all. That's very strange. It's not even listing the live stream. I will download it as a recording and repost it after the fact because obviously they don't like me. But it's typical. It's typical of YouTube to censor people. I've seen YouTube channels deleted that had quite a lot of followers. I've seen Facebook accounts deleted. In Australia, they're having so much censorship there that people are being arrested for speaking out against masks on their Facebook pages. And I have actually seen videos of this from different media sites. Rebel News comes to mind, which is, you can find them on YouTube. They're an independent news service that tries to keep everything the way it should be, real news.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, well, censorship is one of my predictions for 2021 is that we're going to get a lot more censorship.
Oh, yeah.
Because the current situation cannot allow for people to disagree. The big questions moving forward in 2021 are questions that are issues that we cannot, if we start looking into it, if we start discussing, things will change, and they don't want that, do they? By they, I mean current governments,
Yeah,
technocrats, major multinational corporations. They are tied to each other by, well, several reasons, I think, but money comes to mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can give you one example is the Food and Drug Administration for the United States. They're the ones that basically regulate all the food and medicines that come into the United States and are used and put out to market. And one of their head people used to be the CEO of the Pepsi Corporation, then somehow got the job as being one of the heads of the Food and Drug Administration. So that's, right there, that's a big red flag to me. It's like he's just going to allow whatever they want to go through from his friends over at the Pepsi Corporation into the public markets. And yeah, that's just one example of the corruption, I guess is the best way to put it, that we're seeing not only through government, but also through, like you said, the large multinational corporations, which in my opinion are the people who actually control the countries right now, the nations, because they have all the money. They do.
Yeah, well, if you look at where the money goes, those money, it's our money. It's taxpayers' money. So it makes sense in an economy that has reached its peak, right? To try to create money streams
Okay.
that will go on forever. So if you look at what's it called? Several like Adobe. Lots of people use Adobe, and it's you pay per month, right?
Yeah, I have it for video editing.
Yes, exactly. And that kind of model is where we're going, by the way. And if you can get your hands on that stream of taxpayers' money, right? An obvious example right now is the vaccines, because it's they say, well, twice. You need twice. 2 shots, right?
Yeah.
No. It's not going to be 2 shots. No, of course
It's
not.
going to be yearly, every year, same
Probably.
as the current flu vaccine that they give out for free now at many places around my area. It's just free. Get your free flu vaccine. Well, thanks. I don't want it. I don't need it.
This has changed so dramatically how we look at health, public health. It needs to come from a syringe now, and it is not the right way to move forward, if you ask me. And but it's like now these corporations, they get taxpayers' money from every country every year, because this is not free. It's it's obvious. It's an obvious financial plan behind this whole thing, and that should, as you said, it should be a red flag, giant red flag there. They are not doing this out of their their good hearts.
Yeah, the kindness of their heart.
Kindness of their hearts. No. It's a model for making money that we haven't seen so much previously. And I studied business administration and economics. Statistics was part of that, and I think we're looking at we have reached the peak of what the free market economies could achieve, at least in Europe, maybe in North America as well. And these companies, they need to make more money.
Yeah.
They are looking into this low risk membership models. Countries have to buy every year, and I would like to see people prove me wrong on that one. I don't think I'm wrong.
Well, that being said, have you heard what's coming out of the World Economic Forum lately?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The Great Reset, and they're saying no one will own anything by 2030, that everything you have will be on a rental basis. You'll eat much less meat. You'll be happy about it, which is, I'm not going to be happy about none of that.
I can tell you, I'm going to eat a lot more meat meat in the future, because that I believe in that. I believe that's very healthy for me. I can feel it. It's healthy. And I want to own more things.
Yeah, me too.
So
yeah, that's going to be a problem for me as well. But and like I said earlier in the stream, and to everybody just joining, apparently I didn't have it set as a public stream. My fault. Oops. Yeah, catch the replay, guys. But yeah, just going back into it, it's not myself that I'm concerned about by 2030. It's my children and my grandchildren that I assume will have someday really soon, because kids, they reproduce, right? So yeah, can you believe I'm only 9 years younger than you? Can you believe that?
So you're you're 39 then. Yeah.
And most people cannot believe that. But yeah, I have teenagers as well, so I expect to have grandchildren, sooner or later. Not anytime soon, hopefully, but not to be naive, I assume it will happen. But it's
that's what
I'm concerned about. So yeah. And
you want your bloodline to continue, right?
Oh yeah. I need a few more, in my opinion. I need a little grim army running around me, train them all to think properly, to question everything, to think for themselves. That's what everyone should strive for, in my opinion. And not this. Like I said earlier, the schooling systems in the United States are so very broken. They are regulated by the government, which means the teachers only teach one side, which is the same agenda you're seeing in the mainstream media. And they're, like I said, brainwashing the children. And we cannot allow this to continue. We cannot allow this to continue, or we've already lost not only the nation, but the entire world if they continue to get to the children like this.
Yeah, well, again, I think Norway is not that bad when it comes to these issues, but I know my daughter, she had when the whole, the BLM mess and all that started, the whole the riots and the whole thing, the chaos. That was, they had a few days at school and everything was about that, and according to her, you were supposed to have the right opinion about that.
Yeah.
When I said, well, why don't you try to look more into it? Why don't you try to look behind the propaganda, behind the whole thing? And but they never did. They never did.
Yeah, we've seen sporadic issues with that particular group here in the United States. I remember when it first started was almost 4 years ago, if I remember correctly. And there were riots a little bit here and there, but I think it's increased since then with just the riots in general, that every time someone does something stupid and the police use too much force to stop them, more riots happen every single time, even if the person that was causing the problem deserved it or not. It's still a reason to riot. And when I say riot, they're not trying to protest. The media will portray this as a protest. I've seen the headlines of peace, or what do they call it? A violent protest is what they call it. But it's not a protest at all when people are just smashing windows of stores and taking the stuff out of there and then running away. That's not a protest. I mean, that's not even a riot. That's just theft. That's just outright theft.
Yeah.
And
I think when it comes to that, I think it's, and wiser people than me, they have said that we were Douglas Murray, a British guy, said that we were almost there with, the whole racism thing gone, and we had almost reached it, and then they started making the whole race thing a huge thing again. Why couldn't we just have, left that in the past? And we were almost there, he said, and then they tore it all down, as if they want that segregation, as if they want that division.
Of course they do, yeah. Divide and conquer. You can't conquer a united people that are standing all in a line, all with their shields and their swords. You can't conquer them. You have to fight them hard. But if you get them turning on each other and facing each other because they're arguing, bickering, or fighting, then it's easy just to run them down. I mean, to use old terms, but yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, I was so disappointed in that, actually, because I remember one evening I sat by myself and I thought, well, maybe I don't know anything about this, because do I know anyone with African background, or I don't know, Asian background? And I started thinking about it. Well, yes, of course I do.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, that's not the first thing on my mind when I think about the people I know.
Yeah.
As it should be. I don't know them by race. I know them by name, their occupation, their personality, and that's how it should be, I think. But anyway, I'm changing the subject. I didn't mean to.
Oh, change it all you want. It's definitely a very interesting conversation. And I know it's probably getting late for you. We've actually been on here for an hour, even though a lot of people are just now joining us because I've been having so many technical difficulties today. So that's my fault. But yeah, sorry guys. But yeah, just let me know when you have to go. And
no, it's not that late.
Okay. So
Okay.
that's good. I would be happy to continue for as long as you want because I'm having a really, I like the conversation. So it's nice to speak to like-minded people who share the same values and the same views. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
and that being said, I watched some of your recent videos on how I think it's your government that is trying to say that the Viking culture never existed. Is that true?
No, it's not the government. Here's how it works. Now, the Vikings, or well, I say Vikings, but the Norse. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, those are my ancestors. They traveled a lot, right, and they traded a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they were, had a lot of contact with other cultures. So naturally, you will find objects in their graves and in their, the archaeological digs. They
Yeah.
find objects from Arabia, for instance, from and I'll use that particular ring as an example. They found a golden ring, and it says the saying "God is great," the Muslim thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, written on the ring. And then some Swedish guy or woman suddenly they it's like they jump to conclusion and they say, well, that means that the Vikings were Muslim.
Okay.
And it's like, no, no. It means that some guy, let's call him Harold,
Mm-hmm.
went traveling, and if he traded, and that gold ring was really nice. I want that gold ring for either myself or my wife back home.
Yeah.
And that's the story. That's the probably it was something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have several examples of that, and we also have, and this does not come from Norway, but I see this from actually uh, uh, Netflix, and they are writing, they are casting like African looking characters to play classic stories from European history,
Yeah.
which it's actually they can do that. It's artistic freedom and all that. But you would
But
never see it
historically
the other way
accurate.
around, would you?
Yeah.
So it is rewriting history, and I'm saying that there are lots of people trying to say that the Vikings they didn't look like Vikings, and they were not their own people. They were just a mix of people, immigrants who traveled north. Well, we all come from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So we could say that about any people, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but it's like it's not true, because they were genetically they were a significant, they were a group, and with lots of other ethnicities mixed into that. Again, you can say that about all peoples,
Oh yeah.
unless we're talking about a little tribe in the Amazon that hasn't seen
Yeah.
anyone else for 500 years.
The one exception out of the billions of people, right?
Yeah. So, and they had their very own culture, a significant culture, and they were they influenced the world around them more than the world around them influenced them.
Yeah.
But that's, you can't really know that, but that's my, after having studied Viking Age for all my adult life, that's what I think. But anyway, so there's this eagerness to say that the Vikings never existed as we view them. They were never really here. We
Yeah.
were just a mix of people from other places. That pops up now and then, and has been popping up more and more recently. So I have a friend who's an historian, and he lost his job because of conflict based on, partly at least, that exact
That's a shame.
phenomenon there. Yeah, it's a shame. So it's, as you can understand, when I walk my dogs, I walk literally among remains of grave mounds from the Bronze Age and stone rings. And people are saying, well, you didn't have a culture of your own.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, I have a very limited knowledge of the culture itself, but I know they were explorers. They were, they were hunters. They were warriors, obviously, is the biggest stereotype that we have from the United States, that they went around raiding and looting and having a little merry time and drinking all the beer, right? But that sounds like fun, and I've always been fascinated by supposed warrior cultures. But there's even evidence from Canada that they have made it all the way to Canada.
Oh yeah, that's been proven many times. Yeah, yeah, we do. It's and I looked into that in detail, and the only thing we don't know is how far south they went along the East Coast.
Yeah.
We know that they probably went looking for timber.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know exactly how far south they went. If you go to Iceland and look at the DNA material among the Icelandic people,
Mm-hmm.
you will find DNA from natives in North America there.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously they made it over here. Obviously, there's been evidences. I don't think you would find too much evidence in the United States, just because of the massive amount of population that currently occupies the eastern United States, and populations tend to destroy history, historical landmarks, things like that. They're very destructive to the natural environment. So.
Yes, and especially when you move along the coast, because the coast, that's where people settle, and
yeah.
So I think that most of the Viking settlements on the American East Coast they're long gone, because they used the timber probably to build new houses.
Yeah.
And to I've done a little bit of that myself, looking into how do you make a part for your wall in your house.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
So you would use that again. You wouldn't throw that away. So yeah, but okay, that's a big topic. But yeah, now the Vikings, or I should rather more correctly say the Norse, were obviously a people, and they some were warriors, absolutely, and most of them were farmers, fishermen,
Mm-hmm.
traders, sailors, and yeah.
A lot like most other cultures, very diverse. They had a lot of different people do different things. Have you heard of or seen, I think it comes out of the UK, the show that is actually, it's a TV show named Vikings that is rebroadcast on the American History Channel, I believe it is.
Yeah, well, I haven't. I think I've seen 5 minutes or so. It's not because I think it's bad or anything like that. I haven't seen it as only 5 minutes. But it's. I'm a historical novelist, and Viking Age historical novelist. So it's very close to what I do every day. So the only reason I don't watch it is that I need to preserve my focus on what I do, my writing.
Yeah, because it would influence your novels then, I would assume.
It could,
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. And to everyone just joining us, I just posted the link to his website in the chat. There is a petition there. I would like everyone to go sign. It is to have all of his novels translated to English because I want to read them personally. So I don't care if you really want to read them. I want to read them. So please do that for me. I would appreciate that. And sorry for getting the live stream broadcast later than it actually started. So you'll definitely have to watch the replay. And thank everybody for showing up. We now have more than 3. So
That's nice. Well, thank you for mentioning the petition, by the way.
Yeah, I really am. I really like to read your novels. I really would. I read a lot of novels. I read a lot of books. I've done a book discussion a little bit on my live streams a couple of weeks ago of the Borrowed World novels from an author called Franklin Horton. Basically, it's a survivalist prepper type of novel series. So, yeah,
That sounds interesting.
Oh yeah, you might enjoy it if you like to read. So. I definitely highly recommend it. Let's touch on the topic of masks a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. And yeah, basically, how do you feel about them? Because I could go on this topic for a while. So,
well, I think it should be up to each and every one. And I think that if you're going to wear a mask that is not just for show. Wear something that actually works.
mm-hmm.
It's it's become a ritual for some people. We see the masks here in Norway now. It took a long time before it caught on. But it's not as simple as just, if you ask me, it's not as simple as just saying, I won't wear a mask, because the people who own the shops can be fined and they can get in trouble. So, and they have to abide by these rules. So it's like, okay, I can wear a mask if you tell me that you're going to get a fine if I don't. But the larger picture is that it's not really that effective. It's a little bit, if I may say that, it's a little bit like, was that in the 60s? They taught the kids to hide under in schools.
For a nuclear
bomb. You see the flash, you hide under the table, right?
Yeah, that would help so much.
Yes. And I see people wearing these masks, and they're totally open here on the sides, right?
Yeah.
So it helps maybe a little bit if you cough.
I see a lot of people wearing them right here, just over their mouth with their nose hanging out. So I've coined the phrase a mouth diaper, because I believe those people have no ability to speak for themselves. They haven't been trained to speak properly, so they need to wear the mouth covering to keep the words from just spilling out. So yeah, mouth diaper is what I've referred to them as. So.
Yeah, but there is I made actually a video on my second channel about when you put a mask on, what happens. And there's this mechanism that when you become more anonymous, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is that with anonymous people, you lose your empathy more and more.
Yeah, I see that. There was a lot of studies done from people that wore full face coverings, how suddenly their personality and their morals change because they think nobody can judge them or nobody can recognize them, so they can get away with doing more things they wouldn't typically do.
Yep.
And yeah, there's been a lot of psychological studies done on that, and I find it to be rather interesting to see how bold certain people are getting lately when they have a mask on, that they will outright come up to someone who isn't wearing a mask and tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing, trying to dictate how this other person lives their life. which you would never have seen if the mask wasn't there to protect their identity. So
exactly. I think you can see the same mechanism when people get in their car. Well, some people.
Yeah.
That's a mask in a way. But again, I'm not like I'm never going to wear a mask, because, as I said, it's a little bit more complicated than that. And I have to add that where I live, it's not a big place, and so store owners could get in really serious trouble if they get fined.
Yeah.
And that fine would be on top on everything else that they have suffered during the last few months. But I'm not a big fan of masks. No, not at all. No.
Yeah, I have a Teespring account where I make T-shirts with sayings and things like that, and I have one mask listed for sale on this particular store, and the saying on the mask is "licking doorknobs since 2020." And yeah, I thought it was funny, so I did it, and one person out of anyone who's seen it has also thought it was funny, because that's how many I've sold, one, and it was the person who requested the mask to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that only certain masks are very effective, but unless viruses are airborne, that's not how you catch them, through breathing them in. You catch them by getting it on your hand and touching your face and things like this. So I don't really, I don't, maybe if it's preventing you from rubbing your nose or anything like that, maybe it's helping, but I kind of doubt it's helping anybody at all.
Well, we bought, I ordered actually the real thing when it comes to these masks. I can't remember what they're called.
N95.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a box of them myself.
Yeah. We're going to use those if I think that there is actually a very deadly virus out there. We haven't used them yet, but
Exactly.
we have them. We do have them, so they're there. We can use them.
And they are now talking about new mutated strains of COVID now that are popping up in places like Africa and Europe now. Have you heard anything about that? So, yeah. Do you think it's going to be deadly?
Less deadly. But because that's normally the way it goes, because the virus now, I'm not a virologist, obviously, but as far as I understand it, a virus will mutate, and the strain that is the most contagious will win, and the other strains will die off, right?
Yeah.
But if you get that strain that kills the host quickly, doesn't get to spread, right?
Yeah.
That's why you had the Black Plague that popped up in Europe, and it killed the host in 24 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
Not all, but very high percentage. But since so many died, it died down quickly as well. It wiped out a town, but anyway, I think it's going to be less deadly. It could be, and here's the thing: actually, a vaccine could mess up that whole process. Yeah, it could, and I don't know. Since so many things are going on at the same time, it's very difficult to get a grasp on what's really going on when it comes to the virology in this.
Yeah.
So I'm extra cautious right now, because I do not know how many strains are out there. I think there are more than 2. I do not know what's going to happen with the people that are now being vaccinated when they encounter a virus again, a coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you already know that what could happen is that they become super spreaders for a few days. That that's going to get ugly if that happens, so there are lots of variables right now, so I'm not so happy about that.
Yeah, from a common sense standpoint, and I am definitely not a medical professional as well, but I do know quite a few of them. But common sense standpoint is you need the germs, you need the viruses to build your immunity. And if you're taking a magic shot, it's going to take away your body's natural immunity. So then when something else comes along, like a mutation that your body isn't prepared for because you don't have the immunity from the first, because you took this magic shot, assuming it actually works at all, which I have doubts on that, but that's besides the point. But when this extra or other mutation comes along, you're not going to be able, your body's not going to be able to fight it off. It's not going to be able to defend you from it. And it's basically a very dangerous situation, and it's going to cause, if this happens, it could cause a lot worse problems than what we're seeing currently with our 98% survival rate. So
yeah, it's like, I'm going to be very simple and plain and about this. It is insanity what they're doing now, vaccinating. They want to vaccinate the entire world against this. It's insanity. There's nothing else to say about it. And I would if this was like polio, right, which is was a very, very serious disease, and I think it's safe to say that vaccines helped, get rid of the whole polio threat in at least in our parts of the world. Then I could understand the whole vaccine thing, but with this, it doesn't make sense.
Nope, I agree completely. It makes sense from a money standpoint. If you look at the numbers, it makes sense from, let's just compare it quickly to American drug dealers, illegal drug dealers, where they stand on the corner and they give you the little free sample. And I'm not a drug dealer. I get this information from movies. Okay, so
I mean,
they give you the free sample, and then they get you addicted to it, and then you keep coming back for more. And we're going to see this, in my opinion, we're going to see this with the vaccine. Is they're going to convince you need it, and then they're going to convince you, just the same as they do with the flu vaccine, that you're going to need it every single year. And that is nothing but a money standpoint, that they just want more and more money. That's the only reason I can see for this to happen at all. And because it's not as deadly as they portray it. It's not ever been that deadly. Like I continue to say, it's 98 to 99% survival rate. I mean, anybody I know who has had it confirmed that they actually believe personally they had it, said that it wasn't that bad. I've heard a few people say it was, but even they didn't die because they said that. So it's not as bad as it's being portrayed at all. And
yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. It's like, here's what I think. Everyone has seen someone die, an old person die from what's it called?
Pneumonia.
Okay, that, yes.
Yeah.
So many letters in that word. Infection of the lungs, right? I'll say that.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, it's horrible, right? And lots of old people die from that every year. It is horrible, and so it's like, it almost now feels like people have gotten into this fantasy where they think that we'll take a vaccine and everything bad will be gone from this world.
Yep.
They're in for a big disappointment. They're going to get sick and die from something.
More than likely.
There's that as well, You go out the door, and that could be your last day.
Yeah. You could trip and fall off of your own porch and crack your head, and that'd be the end of it. I mean, it's just nobody is promised tomorrow, no matter what the government tells you or the mainstream media. Nobody is promised tomorrow. And so many people are so afraid of this, so afraid. I was reading a text, not from anybody I know, but it was something they had copied and sent to me, where a woman was asking for her teenage children that worked at a fast food drive-through restaurant for everyone driving up to the drive-through to wear masks on their face, because the air particles are flying out of your mouth and the children or the teenagers don't feel safe at their jobs. That's insanity. They have this mindset that, if we have this passport that we were talking about earlier, and we have this shot, that everything's going to go back to what they believed was a normal, and it's never going back to that ever. There will be something different, but
Yeah,
never that.
it's a very sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's a very dangerous path to walk down. It's very dangerous to continue down that path, because there are so many things that can happen, and we then ask for a protection, a vaccine, a treatment in advance, something for everything, because lots of things can happen, and where is it going to stop? Are we going to get a vaccination for any disease? I know there are lots of diseases that you can get that we are not being vaccinated against. So are we going to be vaccinated against everything there is a vaccine for? Where is this going? I mean,
Genetic manipulation.
Sorry?
Genetic manipulation. That's basically what this vaccine is anyway, and that's the goal. I think the end goal is for the very rich, powerful people to find ways, and that could be, this is a conspiracy of my own. This shot, and kind of like you were discussing earlier, it's a good way for them to log all the DNA of the entire population. And I believe that the elites, as they are sometimes referred to, but these very rich people, are trying to find ways to not die ever, to live forever. And I think they are trying to collect everyone's DNA. And obviously this is just, random things that pop into my mind from just what I see and hear and watch. So, take it with a grain of salt, question everything, is something I always say on my channel here. So, yeah, but it's a possibility, I believe.
Well, if you look at the quest for eternal life separately, it certainly is a big industry. And I can't remember the names right now, but it's something I was very interested. I am interested in that because I think it's very exciting. It's cutting edge medicine, right? So, but it's lots of money in that, how DNA research is linked to that, I do not know exactly, but it's going to happen on a DNA level. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
There is no other way to do it, because you need to alter the DNA so that, for instance, these little we have something in our cells that gets worn in the ends, and that's how the cell dies.
Yeah, I don't remember the names for all those scientific things, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but you have to fix that on a in the DNA itself.
Cellular degradation, I guess, is what it calls it. The cells start to wear out within your body, is I believe how that, because I read some articles about that as well. So I think that's how that works.
It's called I can't remember it now, but okay, it doesn't matter. It's going to, if you want a human being to live forever, and not only live forever, but you want to get to the age of so that you stay physically in your 30s or something.
Yeah.
For eternity, and that's, you need to do that by altering the DNA.
And reversing the aging process, basically.
Yeah, well, if you're older than that, so you have to reverse it a little bit.
Yeah, you may.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. Well, that's very exciting. I haven't thought about that in connection with the DNA sampling yet, but I do now.
Yeah, something to think about. I'm good at making people think about alternate possibilities. I play a game with my kids quite often called, I call it the what if game. And basically, no matter where we're sitting or what we're doing, I always have a list of scenarios that what if this happens running through my head. I've always been that way. So I play the game with the kids. For instance, I'm sitting at a grocery store and we're waiting for, their mom to come out of the store because I don't like going in there and I don't like taking my kids in there. And I say, well, what if, for example, a car on the other side of the parking lot explodes? What if that happens? What should we do? And the answers they come up with are incredibly creative, incredibly creative. Just for an example, I told my 9-year-old that we need to stack food to the rafters. And she asked, what's a rafter? And I explained it's what's holding up the ceiling and the roof. And she said, well, isn't the ceiling in the way? Wouldn't you have to cut the ceiling out to stack it to the rafters? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. So are you storing up to the rafters?
Yeah, I'm trying. I have several smaller stacks, but yeah, I have up to about 6 months worth of food for my entire family right now. I had a personal SHTF event happen in my own life in early 2019, and I actually went through about half of my food supply because groceries were just getting harder to afford. And I figured, save the money for the food and use it elsewhere to pay other bills because we have plenty of food to sustain us for now. So let's just eat that. And without being a prepper as I am and being prepared for anything that could have happened, the loss of my job, which did happen, I mean, we would have been in a lot more trouble. So, yeah.
Yeah, lots of people, they don't think about that. But especially now, you could lose your job, your income,
Oh, yeah.
or have your income drastically reduced. And I'm hearing people in Norway, which is a rich country, they are talking about, oh, more and more people are getting poor, and they have to rely on the Salvation Army to give them food.
Yeah.
So why don't you stock up on food while you can? It's just common sense. But very few people do.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it was always common sense to me to have extra just in case of a job loss, to have extra in case of natural disaster or fire or anything else. And one thing I suggest is never keep everything in one building in case of fire. Or in my area, we have a lot of tornadoes. That's, the biggest thing in my particular state that could happen. And so, if the tornado comes and wipes out my entire house, if I had something, a few blocks, a few towns over in storage, then I still have something and I haven't lost everything. So I believe the saying is don't keep all of your eggs in one basket. So,
yeah. Where I live, actually, I could hike into Sweden.
Yeah.
Without anyone knowing, because it's woodland and the border is very, very long. So it's not guarded. So maybe I've been there or not. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows where I've been? It's illegal to go there without getting back in quarantine and all that. But it's like I like the idea that if I want to go to Sweden, I can, in the woodland, in the wilderness, out there. I can do that. Now it's a bit of, it's I like to be think myself as a rebel sometimes. But it's again, it kind of brings me back to the whole problem with people being removed from nature now, which is something I've talked about on my channel several times, and we see that clearly now. And what I mean by that is people have lost their self-reliance. They are so obedient because I think they think they have to be. But if you know how to fish and hunt, I do neither of those things actually, because I'm very soft when it comes to animals. But I know how to track animals, and I know where to find the fish, and I would if I had to, and all that.
Yeah.
And I realize, yes, if there are hunters in the live streams, it's not that easy. I realize that, but it's like at least I will be better off than people who don't even know how a deer looks like.
Yeah, they've only seen pictures of it. A deer is, and I've been deer hunting and I've been turkey hunting, and I do a lot of fishing actually because I enjoy the activities, and I like to eat all of those things. But a deer is very hard to spot in a wooded area. It's very hard. It blends in so well to its environment, as it should, that, I mean, there's people that could be walking right past the deer and it could be laying in the dirt next to them and they wouldn't see it. They just wouldn't. And they've never experienced the wilderness at all. I mean, I've only got, I think, I can't remember if it's one or two overnight camping videos on my channel currently, and I've been wanting to get out and do cold weather or winter camping, but I'm having vehicle problems. The only reason I haven't done it, I got to fix the piece of junk in the driveway, but that's a completely different story. But yeah, I mean, people, they don't know what it's like to be self-sufficient. They don't know what it's like to depend on themselves. They've only ever depended on somebody else their whole life. They've depended on their parents. They've depended on the government, their grandparents.
Yes.
And so many just don't know what it's like and are completely fearful of it. They're scared to have to depend on themselves. They wouldn't know what to do with themselves. It's a shame.
It is a shame. And it's like, we had the big thing here, the big discussion about the smart meters. That's a totally, it's a totally different topic, but somewhat related because it's all part of the surveillance state, isn't it? And we don't have that, and we're not going to have a smart meter.
Yeah.
You have those in
your
country.
We have them everywhere now in my particular state.
Yeah, so it's like someone told me, I think, well, what if they turn off the electricity to your house? And I remember I was like, yeah, do that, please. It's like, you do that, I'll be fine, actually. I'll be better off, actually. No, I'm kidding now, of course, but
yeah,
it's like I can go camping then.
Yep.
In my house.
Yeah, I've made some jokes about it too. It's like, go ahead, shut off my power. I'm good with that. We can test out my preps. We can test out I like having natural lighting instead of all these bright things. I like lighting candles and lanterns and things like that. So yeah, you go ahead, shut it off. I'm good. So,
but the attitude should be more an attitude of defiance than obedience, especially now. And we only have to go back, 2 generations. At least in Norway, my grandfather was involved in the resistance against the occupying the Nazis that occupied Norway.
Yeah.
And I have the desk, a very beautiful old wooden desk with lots of little rooms, and you can, organize everything. And I probably shouldn't say this because maybe I will have to use it in the future, but there's a place there to hide illegal newspapers. I understand that's very the distance newspapers. If they had caught him with that, he would obviously been thrown in jail.
Or worse.
Or worse, yes. That's only 2 generations ago.
Yeah. A lot of people have forgotten the world history. I believe a lot of people forgotten what we fought for as a world, as a lot of free countries, to keep it the way it was last year. And now so many people are just giving it away now. They're afraid to get sick, and they can't remember just 2 generations ago that we fought and we starved and we died just to stay free. And now they're like, oh, well, I might get sick. Here's all my freedom. You can have it now.
But I'll tell you one thing, that if you look back at history, especially, like the occupation of Norway, it's safe to say that the people who enable tyrannical rulers like that are the people who line up in queues. They stand in line. They do not protest. They do as they're told. And I think that those people today are the ones who scream about, why don't you wear a mask? Why, if you don't take the vaccine, I think you should just stay at home your entire life.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you not follow the rules? Why don't you do as you're told? We see a lot of that now. And these people think of themselves as the good guys. I think of those people as the ones who enabled the Nazis to occupy Norway and Europe. And not only that, but who joined them in doing that. Did you know that there were more more Norwegians who joined the Gestapo than the Norwegian resistance during the Second World War?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it. So, would you mind at this point, I know we've been on here for a while, taking some comments and questions from the subscribers? Can you actually see the live chat? Because I can put some of them up on the screen here.
I can't, but you can just tell me.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's Prepper Nation. I was talking to you about him earlier, if you remember. So.
Okay. Yes. Yes, the author. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely recommend his channel to you. If you like to have his email, I'll pass it to you after this particular live stream. Yeah, if anyone has questions or comments you would like to ask, please put it in all caps. From this point on, I will throw a few of them up on the screen, and we'll do it that way. So, yeah. No, John, you're not dead, man. You're good. He's having, like he said, a fanboy moment. He says you're one of his favorite channels. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
I see Homestead Oss is in the house. That's also one of the channels I recommend. They are Australian, obviously, and they're very censored on their own YouTube channel and social media platforms in Australia right now. I believe I spoke to you about it earlier, where I watched videos of people making Facebook posts about masks and being arrested for it. So, yeah.
That's insanity.
It really is. I mean, just talking to Homestead also a bit on my channel, there's a lot of things they just can't say on their own YouTube channel, or fear of being arrested, or even worse things that could happen to them. So it's definitely a place where freedom has been stripped away. So did we lose John? Did he pass out? John, are you still there? So, yeah, I'm just scrolling through some comments. I'm waiting for anyone has a question for the guest. Oh, it's the backwards camera. I always mix that up. You have to post your questions in all caps, all caps. So I know it's a question. Yeah, we'll just, and yeah, maybe add a question mark so I can see it, guys. A question mark would be helpful. John, did I miss your message? I'm not scrolling up. Repost it because yeah, this stream has been going for like an hour and a half now, and an hour and 40 minutes, and I'm not scrolling up. So we're just probably give it a few more minutes, and then I will try to. Oh, here we go. Here we go. That's a good one. Thank you, Hutch, for a good question.
Now let's see. Do you find that your media speaks from the same script as our media? Good question. And do you believe that there is a global issue that is being overlooked? Yes and yes.
For sure.
I can actually tell because I'm on YouTube a lot, and I do not follow CNN, but I see some videos sometimes where CNN is being referred to. The day after, you will get the same news translated, basically, and presented as news on the Norwegian 2 main news channels. And it's... So, yes. Yes, and they use CNN when it comes to everything from the USA, basically. Overlooked, yes, there are tons of issues that are being overlooked. How many people die from malaria?
Oh yeah,
every year? Why isn't the international community, why isn't a good, kind hero like Bill Gates, why isn't he more involved in that?
Yeah, he's such a hero.
I don't understand. So, and there is things like depression, suicide, and all of these addiction issues, people ruining families, and so, and lots of other issues as well. Of course, how the Chinese are treating the people in Tibet, the Uyghurs in the East Turkestan, and Hong Kong. Did we all forget about Hong Kong?
Yeah. And it's not important news, so it just gets swept under the rug. It's not, the thought that they want to push.
So, yeah, lots of issues being overlooked, and probably lots of issues directly connected to the whole... I don't like this word, but pandemic, that whole thing as well. We're not being told the entire truth there, that's for sure. And I can say that with confidence because new things keep popping up almost daily now. And it's like the mainstream media, they believe that they have a monopoly on telling people these things. So it's only when they say it, that it becomes the truth. Until they do that, it's a conspiracy theory. Right?
Yeah, I know the feeling. I got a few other questions here, and I scrolled up and let it pause, guys. So if you're asking questions now, you're gonna have to wait a few minutes. So Wes wants to know, why is it always chocolate coffee? He said.
Why is it always chocolate coffee? I think because I have a very childish, what's the word? Palate, like your taste.
Palate, yeah.
Palate, yeah. So I started having chocolate coffee, and it's actually coffee mocha, but I didn't know, so I know nothing about coffee. So I just said chocolate coffee.
It's just, there's just coffee and nothing else in it. So
yeah. So yeah, I started saying that. So yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask this question, and I don't know why, but Indiana Prepper 2 asks if you ever wear Crocs.
Oh, the shoes.
Yeah, the shoes.
I did when my kids were they did swimming, like
Yeah,
we call it swimming, right?
they're good
Competitive
for
swimming.
swimming. I'll give them
Yeah,
that. But
and then I use Crocs in and out of the swimming pool area. Yes. Otherwise, not so much.
yeah, I don't own any personally. No, thank you. Thomas Hoppers says, do you find it harder to prep as you get older?
Well, I'm just getting into it, to be honest. We don't have a very large storage of food.
Yeah.
We're building it up. I do not make videos about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm very visible here in Norway. So that's why I don't get into details on that.
Are you very well known because of your novels or your YouTube presence in your local area?
The
Famous, I guess
novels
we could say.
is more on a national level, I would say. Norway is a small country, so my channel is one of the largest channels in Norway. But I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't have people running up on the streets. It has happened sometimes. I do get recognized, actually, but it's not crazy. But it's still, I think it's wise not to. You never know what happens, and I don't want the entire local place here on my door if we get food shortage.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about neighbors and people who know what you have around me also. Just trying not to give yourself away, I suppose, is the best way to put it. It could be a very dangerous situation. So yeah, I don't put everything that I have on YouTube, and everything that I've put on YouTube is not typically in my house. I keep things in various places for various reasons. So yeah. Prepper Nation asked, if you moved to the United States, which state would you choose to live in?
I do not know, but I do know that for me personally, I have to live near the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. So I love the woodland and mountains, but I can't stay away from the sea for too long.
Yeah, there's a lot of places on the east coast of the United States that would fit that for sure. Yeah, lots to choose from. Homestead Oz says, you seem to find so much peace in the wild. What advice do you give for people living in cities and who can get out to the wild, basically?
Yeah, first of all, get out of the cities.
Get out and visit wilderness type areas, I suppose.
Yeah, but if you can't do that, I think it's very healthy to have some green nature around you. Like, it can be something like growing a tomato plant in your window.
Yeah.
Simple things like that. So it's better than nothing. But obviously, I think, I don't think it's healthy to live in a city, but that's just me. Some people seem to do fine, but with that. But I would say, if you can, try to move out of the cities, and especially after we've seen. Now, I was not in the USA, obviously, while you had the riots and all that, but I kind of feel that cities are not so safe, maybe. But
yeah, I agree.
That's just me sitting here saying that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, they can be, in the United States, cities can be a very dangerous place even before all the current events, they were still very dangerous places to be in certain areas at certain times of day. Wearing certain colors of your clothing could be very dangerous for you if you are unaware of where you were at. So I think it's, there was and this is basically things that nobody talks about anymore. There was a lot of, and still is a lot of, gangs, I guess you could, they were referred to as gangs. And I know in the city that's closest to me, one of the gangs would wear blue, the other ones would wear red, and if you were wearing the wrong color in the wrong neighborhood, they would try to harm you. So yeah, that's the way the cities have been in the United States for a very long time, and it's something nobody ever talks about anymore currently.
Well, I've only seen things like that in the movies, but I did grow where I grew up. It was right in the middle between two competing gangs. That was in, when we got formation of the gangs consisting of Middle Eastern young men, to put it that way. So that was very bloody, very bloody. That was very violent. I was not involved in that, obviously, but I remember that. That was kind of not good at all,
Yeah, I remember when I was a younger man, I guess I was in my early 20s, I was always I like to just go places, explore places. And eventually I ended up walking through cities too, just to get out and see things. And I remember walking through a neighborhood and people sitting on the porch and people looking at me and giving me these very odd looks, like I wasn't supposed to be there. And suddenly I had a feeling, somebody's like watching me. And I knew people were looking at me, but I didn't think nothing of it. But then I started, the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you're thinking something's wrong here. And sure enough, I look behind me, there's like 3 or 4 guys walking in my direction. But I've always had this aura or persona about me of, come and mess with me, I want you to. I've always put off that kind of an attitude, I guess you could say. And it really has deterred a lot of people from bothering me throughout my life. So yeah, it really says a lot about yourself if you can display an attitude, even if you're not a very strong-willed person. But if you can make other people think that you're going to fight to the very last man, they will question challenging you. So it's a psychological standpoint kind of thing. Backcountry Preps has made it. Thanks for showing up. Another channel I definitely recommend. So a question here from, I think it was Hutch, or reposted from Hutch, is the overpopulation of foreign migrants in Norway smothering out the original culture? And do you believe that there is any single nation that has Norway in its sights as maybe possibly a war type scenario?
Lots of people assume that I think it's not like that in Norway. And lots of people get confused because we are, they hear about Sweden and they think it's the same in Norway, but it really isn't. It's very difficult to come to Norway from other places. Some people would disagree, but if you look at the numbers, we do not have not anymore at least, we do not have a lot of immigration, okay? From countries that tends to, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We have a lot of immigration from Sweden and Poland.
Really?
Yes, and the Baltic states, because they come here to work. So that kind of messes up the numbers, the statistics a little bit. But I think you were not referring to that kind of immigration.
No, I don't think he was referring to that. Also,
But
do you
Sweden
have?
is very different.
Yeah. Do you have more
Um,
jobs than Sweden currently? Is that why they're coming over?
they are much better paid here.
Ah,
Yeah, and also there is, as if you speak Swedish, you don't have to speak Norwegian in Norway because it's so similar. So we're basically the same people in a way. So Swedish people and Norwegian people. So but there was a second part there of the question, wasn't it?
yeah. The second part was, do you believe that there's any single nation that has you in its sights, basically, would
Yeah,
try to come and invade? Yeah.
yeah, we know this.
Yeah.
That would be any alliance of like the UK, the USA, because of the coastline, and it would be Russia.
Yeah.
I'm not saying any of those countries are plotting to occupy Norway, but in a wartime scenario, you would want to secure the coastline.
Yeah. It's happened in the past. I mean,
Yes, yes. So that's not a big mystery or anything like that. It's
yeah.
just it happened in Second World War, and it's something that will probably happen. Now, when it comes to Russia, I'm a big fan of Russia. Actually, the people, the culture. I do not like. I just wanted to mention this. I do not like how they paint Russia as the big enemy. By they, I'm referring to like the EU and even the Norwegian government. And one thing I'm not, I'm going, yeah, I didn't, I got this far without mentioning Trump.
Uh-oh. Demonetized.
But he did try to reach out to Russia and build a better relationship there, which was good news for Norway, because we want to keep our trade going with Russia. We want to keep things working, If we get to a point where we view Russia as the big enemy, then we're back to the Cold War.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want that. And the Russians are not that different from us, It's nice people, very generous, warm people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are portrayed as something that's not entirely true in the United States. We've always had that, built into us about certain other cultures, especially Russia, that they've always been the enemy. And that's how a lot of Americans feel about them. But you can't judge an entire culture on certain actions of a government or a past government even. I mean, you can't judge an entire culture like that. That's just not right, in my opinions, obviously. But yeah. So the next question that I have on let's see, guys, I froze the chat on that screen and that screen. I can kind of see it on that screen. So I froze the chat so I could ask questions in order. So if anybody's being missed, sorry. But Full of Hope asked, have you noticed any change in the northern lights this year, or the aurora borealis as it's sometimes referred to?
No, I don't live that far north.
Yeah.
So no, I don't see the northern lights. I have seen it 2 or 3 times, but I haven't seen it this year yet. It's very uncommon that we see it here.
Yeah, it was actually seen in I guess it was the southern parts of the east coast of the United States very recently, that it had made its way all the way down there. which I found to be very surprising. This was posted on mainstream media about a solar flare that had happened. And there was a lot of concern that it was going to shut down power in certain areas of the United States, which never happened as far as I could tell. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
I'll ask a couple more questions because we are right about the 2-hour mark. So we'll get one or two and then we're wrapping this up. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the chat now. So if you have any questions, post them quickly because we're almost done here. Thank you, Wes, for the super chat, for the Orange Man reference. Yeah. James asks, what is the best Norwegian whiskey?
Norwegian whiskey.
Yeah.
I should know because, first of all, they never made whiskey in Norway, but I think actually a few years ago they started because they figured, well, the climate is somewhat like in Scotland, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could try to make whiskey here. I think, if I remember correctly, that was a few years ago. But that's all I know. I have never tasted Norwegian whiskey. But I think actually you can get Norwegian whiskey now.
Yeah. Really? I'll have to look into that. I'm a whiskey fan. We'll put it that way. Your best bench press, how much weight can you lift? That was a Ben's question.
Today, not so much, but I've lifted 220 kilos. That's with a shirt, and 200 with a little bit of raising the hips up, and 190 kilos with touch and go, and 187.5 with a stop on the chest, and 185 kilos in competition without the shirt.
We need to have a fitness discussion. I'm trying to bulk up a little bit. I'm a very skinny guy, very, very skinny. So, yeah, we definitely need to have a fitness discussion. All right. Last question I'm going to ask here is: have you seen what the human beings in the Marshall Islands, ruthless United States government billionaire control syndicate, or have you seen what they did to the human beings in the Marshall Islands? Was the question.
Was that where they tested the nuclear bomb? No, that's, I'm ill-informed here. The Marshall Islands. This is something I probably have read about, but I can't connect it to the Marshall Islands.
I'm Googling it. Yeah, I would have to research it more to get any more information. If you want to clarify your question there really quickly, because I have to go to the restroom, just so you guys know. I have to go. We've been sitting here for 2 hours and I have to go to the bathroom. So, yeah. Backcountry Preps. All right, last question. Backcountry Preps says, if he makes it to Norway, can he go hiking with you?
Oh, actually, I was just before this whole thing started, I was planning to have a bushcraft camp here a week this summer for people who wanted to come. So that's something I plan to do in the future, hopefully. So the answer would be yes. But let's just hope that, I don't know what to say, really. It's at the moment, I think it doesn't look like we're going to get out of where we are in a long time.
I think everyone is trapped in their own countries. For the most part, there's still a lot of information of people from the UK flying to the United States as long as they have their shot first. They're still talking about that, but I'm not getting it. I will not comply with that.
No.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for joining us. And thank you, Bjorn, for being here. I mean, I really appreciate it. Like I said to you earlier, you have more subscribers than everyone else who's been on my channel put together. So for taking the time out of your day for such a small channel like mine, I really appreciate it. I really do. So thank you very much for being here.
I enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely. I did as well. All right, guys, this has been James and Bjorn. This backwards camera messes with me, and I'll see you guys.
I'll just do like this.
Yeah, I should do that too. Thank everyone for being here. See you later. Oh, there's Prepper Nerd. How's it going, Prepper Nerd? All right, I gotta go.